It's loading. All right, make sure to mute. All right, we'll start in 2 minutes. Let people join. Yeah, if you're not talking, I think it makes sense to mute. All right, in about 30 seconds, we'll start. All right, so welcome everyone to the 1:30 to 2:30 this Monday Q&A that we're having. To remind anyone, we have QA sessions every day this week, Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 10:30, 1:30 to 2:30, and 5:30 to 6:30, all Eastern time. And I will show a slide that has that at the end of the session. The rules for the chat are classroom teachers should post their students' questions in the chat. I will be monitoring those questions and will be presenting them to our two students. The only things that should be in the chat are questions for the students, for our students. And then we'll start out by just introducing ourselves. The two students here will introduce their majors, what they're studying, role on CS Academy, etc. So my name is Elliot Haney. I am a staff member on CMU CS Academy, and I guess I'm from Washington State. Lisa, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am Lisa. I am a senior in studying computer science and minoring in game design. And what else? Where am I from? I'm from New Jersey. And on CS Academy, I work on content. I started in QA, which is quality assurance, but now I do content and whatever Elliot tells me to do. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Emily Slobodenik. I'm a sophomore studying biology with a minor in computer science. I'm from New Jersey as well. In CS Academy, I'm working on the outreach team, and the main thing I work on, if any of you are familiar with it, we release weekly videos called Scotty Scribbles, which are fun ways for students to get to know about CS and the CS field, as well as CMU. So yeah, that's my main project right now.
Great. All right, so while we're waiting for questions from the teachers, I'll just start with some prepared questions to get the ball rolling here. So first question is, what are some things you do at CMU other than work on classes and CMU CS Academy?
I guess I can go first. So for me, extracurricular-wise, I think the biggest thing I did is ballroom. I joined the ballroom club in my, I think it's sophomore year now. And like I joined with no experience in dancing, being like, what the heck is moving and dancing and what's exercise? And I was like, okay. And then I basically went to something that we have called Rush. And then after that, I just kind of was swept in and was like, became really obsessed with it. And that became my life for a while. So yeah, it was really fun. I got to like follow people and lead people, which is like kind of like when you do the man and the female role, you get to do both. And it was really fun doing that and going to socials and all that stuff. And I also compete with that. Besides that, I guess I also do other work at CMU in the sense of like I've worked as an AC academic coach, which is basically supporting students in the sense of like time management and all that stuff, as well as I also worked on game projects quite a bit in like different. The first semester I did it on the actual club, which is GCS Game Creation Society. After that, though, I mainly just worked with friends on and off on different projects where like we just make games, and yeah, that is my life.
Yeah, I also actually do dance stuff on campus. I'm involved with Dancer Symposium, which is a bit more of like an umbrella term. A bunch of different students can choreograph their own dances, and then they kind of recruit people and you audition, and whoever thinks that you fit best with their choreography, they'll recruit you. So I did that. I also do a lot of stuff with Jewish life on campus. I go to Hillel and Chabad and go to events like that. And a really big thing for me right now is I'm an RA. So I'm an RA for freshman housing, which I think is super fun and exciting. I get to meet a lot of new people, a lot of freshies as they come into CMU and learn about the wonderful experience of going to college here. So I get to run events. Like we did a really, really fun pumpkin carving event yesterday for Halloween. We do like reverse trick-or-treating and we try to keep it all COVID pandemic safe. So yeah, that's been most of my life for this year is working with RA stuff.
Cool. All right, next question. Why did you choose to go to CMU?
I can start that one off. I chose CMU kind of as a fluke, which does not sound very well planned. But I applied because I had a friend who went here and he spoke very highly of it, but it didn't really align with what I was interested in. It's a very good technical school, has a lot of amazing engineering and computer science, but I was not interested in that at all. I thought it was, I hadn't really been exposed to it, but I knew that I wasn't interested in it. When it came time to make decisions, I realized that what I thought I knew about engineering and CS, like I just hadn't been exposed to it. I hadn't really stepped out of my comfort zone. And I decided I wanted to try something a bit risky and go to a school that has a lot of things that I'm not, or I thought I wasn't interested in. And for me, I think it really worked out because I had never done any CS in high school at all. I had no exposure to it. And now here I am minoring in CS, working in CS, and I think it's really helped me out. So I guess you could say it was a bit of a fluke and a risk. Maybe don't apply to colleges the way I did, but I think it's worked out in the end.
Yeah, so I guess for me, there's a bit of a like kind of backstory in the sense of like when I was younger, like I think in our family it was always kind of expected that I go into STEM because yeah, kind of family and all that. So I was kind of just like, oh, STEM is like I was kind of like, okay, science is kind of cool, but like I could not imagine just like doing all day physics because I was like, this is just math and like doing physics is great for people who love it, but for me I was like, no. And the same for chem and bio. So I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with my life? So then in freshman year of high school, we had to take a 21st century class, which is I don't even know why they call it 21st century class. But anyway, so I ended up in the CS class where like I actually had at first when I first went in the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do anything. What is this nonsense? And then they're like, okay, type quote, hello world, quote, and then enter, and then magic happened and it like showed up and I was like, whoa, this is cool. So then like from there, like in the class, I had a lot of fun because like we basically just made kind of mini games a lot and like it was a lot of fun because I also like would spend like all my time, like even once I finished other classes work, I just spend my time just like adding power-ups to my game and just random extra things, and it was great. So yeah, after that I was like, wait, can I actually do something creative but still count in the STEM thing? So I was like, okay, CS. So that's why in high school I started doing CS in like fresh sophomore year I couldn't do it, but like junior and senior year I did some of it. And after that, I was like, okay, I should find a school that is good at CS. So CMU popped up, but there's also some other schools. And then I was like, at my heart, I really like creative based things, right? Because I really like art and writing and all that stuff. And then I found at CMU they have something called the Ideate program, which I don't even know what it stands for anymore. But basically, it's about like interdisciplinary things. So like not just like taking CS, but like taking CS and applying it to these interesting things like animation for me, game design, and then there's things like learning media and like it's a bunch of different like really cool topics in it. So that's the reason why I was like, you know what, I should do CMU because like they have this cool Ideate program, and then I can like do creative things, but also do CS, so everyone's happy. Yeah, and I also remember I think I talked to someone, and they mentioned that like at CMU like there is like there's a whole like rumors of it being like really competitive and all that, and I think a lot of it matters on which friend group you have, and like they had mentioned how like for them like they found a really supportive group and they got a lot of support from like their advisors and all that. There's a lot of emphasis on like you don't need to get A's or anything. It's like C's get degrees, and that's okay. Like if you're getting C's, that's completely fine because it's a hard school. So like there's a lot of just like support in that way. So I think that also really attracted me, and like I found for the most part too in the fact that like all of my friends I've kind of settled with are like super supportive, and all of us are like, yeah, we don't know what's happening, and then we all just like spend our time working together and like working things out. So yeah, that is my CMU story.
Great, thanks. Next question. And for those who have just joined our Q&A, if you have questions, feel free to post them in the YouTube chat, teachers. All right, next question. So transitioning a little bit from CMU to CS Academy specifically, why did you get involved in CS Academy?
I guess I can start this one off. We can just like we're just swapping anyway. But for me in the beginning, like at the very core of it, I was just searching for something to do over the summer in sophomore year, and I was like, internships are hard to get. So then, like, every semester, pretty much, our advisor sends out a list of opportunities for like people in our major. So CS Academy showed up, and I was like looking at all the things, and I was like, hold up, this is I never heard of it before then. But then, like when I found out, I was like, wait, this is something about teaching computer science, and it's also about like making something accessible for like everyone. And that's something that like I'd always been like really passionate about because of the fact that like I know in the past I used to like hear about other people who just didn't get the chance to learn about computer science even though they're really interested in it. And I was like, yeah, I wish there was more like readily available and like good content. And I also knew, for instance, that like not all like I guess like in computer science, it's really easy to like teach it in a not very interesting way. In the sense of like I know in my junior year when I done AP Computer Science A, like I was kind of really bored because we were just like strings and numbers, and I was like, wait, it was so fun freshman year. Well, why isn't it fun anymore? But like yeah, and that's the reason why like when I like looked one to CS Academy, I really liked the fact that like it was about being engaging and not just about like I have a string and I'm gonna like add 5 plus 5 and things like that and like do all these things that I can't really see anything. So like that's why I think I really liked the idea of CS Academy. I like the fact that it was about like education equitable, if that's the word, however you say it, basically being available for everyone. I liked how it was like about visuals as well as animation and like basically making things that you could be proud of and like show off and be like, hey, these are cool things I'm doing and they're actually fun. And then also yeah, CS is interesting to teach. So yeah, that's why I applied, and then from there I liked what I was doing, and I was like, I'm doing work that actually like makes an impact and like is meaningful. So yeah, that's why I joined CS Academy. Yes.
I guess I have a very similar story then. I was taking a class, the intro level Python class at CMU that everyone was required to take in my college. And I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I took it because I had to, but I really, really liked just everything about it. And I was really frustrated that I didn't have it easily accessible in high school, or rather, the classes were available, but I felt very much like, why would I join it? I had the perception of what Lisa described for her AP class. It's very boring, it's very mathematical, it's very technical. And I thought I was like done. I figured out biology is my thing. I don't really need to worry about this. But I really, really unexpectedly fell in love with it. And at the end of the semester, first of all, the pandemic hit. So everyone's internships disappeared off into the unknown. But one of the founders for CS Academy, Professor David Cosby, who was my professor at the time, sent out like, hey, this, nonprofit that I work for is trying to hire interns. I was like, cool. I want to do something over the summer. But as I looked into it, I had kind of the same mindset as Lisa. I was really frustrated that I really only got into CS so late in the game that other people, and not even like I had the option to take those CS classes in high school, but I didn't. And the fact that people just don't get that option until like college. And college, you're kind of in a place where you should have, well, you don't have to, but you have this expectation. You should have some idea of what direction you're going in life. And it's hard to think, oh, I want to do CS when you've never done CS ever. So I was really frustrated that it wasn't more easily accessible. I was frustrated how boring it seemed from the outside. And once I started working here, I really, really just loved the work I was doing because everything I did, I knew it was making a direct impact onto some students in a classroom. And even if it was as simple as answering a teacher's email about, hey, this part is confusing for my students, how can I make it more, how can I clarify it, to like making big videos and projects like that to try to get more outreach. Like all of those little things, like in my head, even if just like one student takes this class and is like, wow, I love CS and goes on to like do something great with that, I think that for me is a win. So yeah.
Building off of that a little bit is our next question. What is your favorite part about working on the CS Academy project?
I guess I'm first. I'm going to say the people. I know I'm not going to say that just because Lisa's here, but Lisa's kind of our on-call game night organizer. And I don't know if it's the pandemic. I don't know if it's the people that I just by chance are all together working on this project, but it is just so refreshing every single time. Like, if you hear the word staff meeting, you do not think, yay, staff meeting. But I genuinely look forward to all of our meetings. I genuinely look forward to talking to everyone. I love Lisa's game nights. They are so refreshing, such a breath of fresh air. And everyone is so genuinely passionate about the work they're doing, about the spreading CS knowledge and making it more accessible. It's like contagious. Like you see everyone working so hard and doing such amazing things, and you're like, I want to get to their level and push myself to be even better.
Yeah, that reminds me, I should probably do things more. Like organize more games and things. Anyway, but I suppose for me, my favorite part was like I think I just really liked the work I did, especially since after like it's really weird because I started in QA, but like we were also giving the assignment to like try and create exercises at the same time to like understand like what we're looking for and quality was better. And like I think I just really liked being able to be creative and like be like, hey, I need to make something cool, but I only have if statements. And I'm like, this is really odd because normally you have like all these tools, but now I'm restricted. And like just making something creative in that way was just like really fun. I guess like okay, I suppose I just have one favorite, but I guess my other favorite was like also just like interacting with the teachers is always really fun. Like I didn't since last summer I wasn't like working here, but like my first summer I got to help out with like the PD sessions that were in person, And like at first I was really nervous because I was like, I don't know things, even if I'm a CMU student. And I was like, everything is scary. But then like it was really refreshing to actually be like, hey, I can help people, and like I can like work on trying to explain things in different ways that like when I had that moment where like a teacher gets something, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then like I remember I also got to go to like a separate one, and like I went with another person who was working at the time called Amy, and like we just like got to like actually teach the content also to the teachers, which is really fun because like we would just go back and forth, and I'd be like, hey Amy, why is this true? And she'd be like, well, I don't know, maybe it's because, and like we would just have fun with it, and we'd like act out little skits to like kind of explain different interactions and like explain different concepts. So yeah, that was really fun.
Excellent. Yeah, those sessions were always fun to watch too. Uh, all right, moving on. Um, how do you balance your academics, your work, and your social life while in college? Because that's a lot.
I guess I'm starting this one, right? That's a tough question. So I'm one of the people who are very like I think academic focused in a sense. So like the idea of a social life, this was a very foreign thing to me, and it's still kind of foreign. So I'm probably not the best person to ask. But I think for me, like joining ballroom was a big thing for me in the sense of like I had decided to like commit to in a sense. So like as a result, I was like, okay, this is something that I've planned that like is in my schedule. So like I would have to go to like practice, or like I was like I want to like meet the people more. So then I'll be like, there's an event happening, and like the only way I'm gonna get to know people is like if I go to those events. So that's kind of like how like made a kind of social life happen, was just purely from like I joined a club and then was like, well, if I want to be part of this club, I should do these things. So like it was kind of like not forced, but kind of forced in a way. And it was kind of weird because like time wise, everything just worked out. Like I remember in my freshman year, I was like, I have no time for anything, and like everything is hard. Then sophomore year, I'm suddenly spending like 20 hours a week on volume, and I'm like, and I'm still like surviving, and I'm like, hold up, how is it that I have like 20 hours less, but the same thing is still happening? So I was like, things are kind of magical like that sometimes when you just like get yourself to do it and all that. And I think, wait, what was the other thing? It's academics, social, and sleep, or something else.
It was academics, work, and social life.
Oh yeah, work. That's the thing. I think I just can't work as academics, which is why I was like, oh yeah. So I think it's just like, yeah, I feel like I just do like I sometimes setting a schedule has helped me in the sense of like I'm like during these times I will work, or during these times I'm like going out to have with friends, or during these times I'm doing homework. But yeah, otherwise I think for the most part I am one of the more academic people, honestly. So I spend a lot of time doing schoolwork, and like especially since I'm in creative classes, those can consume a lot of time, but that's also because I want to take my time doing that. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, schedules are nice, and it just kind of worked out. Magic. Yeah.
I had a pretty intense high school experience, and I pretty much just sat in my room and did work. Like I'd go to school, I'd come home, I'd sit and I'd do work, and I'd go to sleep and then start the cycle again. And I was very restrictive of my own free time. I wouldn't really go out, I wouldn't really spend time with friends. And I realized that like once I entered college, I realized that that lifestyle made me incredibly unhappy. I was doing work I wasn't happy with. I was tired all the time. I wasn't making meaningful connections with people. And I got to college and I was like, I need to set aside more time for myself, no matter what that means, which I think was a very difficult thing for me to come to terms with. Again, I'm also a very academic person, so it's very difficult for me to just give myself a break, but I am much more happy. And I think freshman year, I'm a sophomore right now, freshman year was probably like the best year I've ever had in school, like ever. It was so incredible how much just like taking, like going, okay, it's Friday night, just don't do work today. like go get dinner with friends, and that's okay. Like you will be okay. It's obviously much harder right now, but I think that for me, I've just been trying to force myself to make time for myself because I know that I will be incredibly unhappy and the work I will put out won't be my best, and that just everything will follow suit. In terms of balance, like making time for everything, I think that for me, I'm like an obsessive calendarer. I have my Google Calendar, which has my classes, my meetings. I have my calendar on my phone, which has all like, okay, from 12 to 1, we're going to work on biology homework, from 1 to 2. And I'm very, very specific. I plan it out the night before because then day of Emily can't be like, oh, but I don't really want to do it, because yesterday Emily decided we are doing it. I try to also push myself to like mix my social and academic life, which is a very unique thing you can kind of only do in college. Like if you and your friend want to study together, like ignoring everything that's happening right now, you have to get to each other's places. Maybe you have to like drive, maybe you have to meet up at a library that's like 20 minutes each way. But here you're like, hey, you want to work on the homework together? Sure. Meet in the communal like university center. It's so much more easy to get to see other people and bring together academic and social work, because like especially right now, almost all of my social interactions are, hey, I haven't left my room in 6 hours. Would you like to get dinner? And like maybe like do like an hour of work together so I don't stop staring at the same wall for 2 hours. So yeah, I think that because of college and just dorms and being on campus, you have the unique experience of like bringing together academic work and social work, which personally has helped me a lot.
I just wanted to second that, and the fact that like almost all the time now, like I'm almost constantly walking with friends because like the schoolwork is really hard. So I'll literally just be like, hey Kimberly, and we'll just sit in like Gates, which is a computer science building, until like 12 a.m. just like walking together and just like talking about the thing, and all just talking about random things half the time also, and just having fun. So like yeah, I just want to second that social and academics are like so much nicer because they can intertwine. Yeah.
Yep. As not too long ago a student myself, I can also agree with that. All right. Next question. Um, what is it like to be a female in STEM at CMU?
I think it's my turn. Yeah, like I said, I think in high school, I really didn't touch CS with like a 10-foot pole. I wanted to do biology, but in terms of female to male ratio, biology is one of the more equal ones. So for me, or even like in some cases, a female dominant STEM field. So I never felt a lot of pressure or didn't really notice that type of difference in my biology classes. But I definitely felt this like subconscious thing that I shouldn't really do CS and like the harder STEM classes and math. And this is going to sound like out of left field, but I read a study recently that when men do poorly on an exam, they are more likely to continue it, while women are more likely to drop that class and say that there's something innately wrong with them. And take that information for what you will, but I definitely felt like if I just started CS and then I was really, really bad at it, I would probably just go, well, I guess that's it. I am never going to do CS. But once I got forced to do it by my CMU core curriculum, I didn't really have the luxury of going, I'll drop this class. I need it to graduate. But I think that this doesn't seem like something you'd care about when you're applying to college, but CMU has a 50-50 ratio of female to male. And when you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, so this college really wants to flex on us. Congratulations, really cool. And it doesn't feel like anything. But when you're in that like 200-person auditorium lecture hall, if I was the only female, I would probably never have spoken in class, period. I would have just been quiet and let my male counterparts, all of which who in my head were already CS geniuses, I don't know how, we're all freshmen, but all of them are CS geniuses in my head. And the fact that I was able to like look around the auditorium and feel like I'm not alone, even though I might not know a single girl in the class, it doesn't matter. I just know that I'm not the only one. It makes it feel a lot better. So I think that just safety in numbers, which sounds weird. We're not unsafe in our CS classes. But yeah, I think that for me, it's very subconscious, and I'd never really had to think about it until I guess I was asked. I mean, it didn't really seem like something I was worried about. But now that I'm getting into those higher and harder level classes, I do start to notice like, hey, I'm alone in a Zoom breakout room, with only male students. How do I feel about that? Am I comfortable speaking up? And I think that because of those first few like earlier classes where I was able to have that comfort that I wasn't alone, I feel much more comfortable now to speak up.
I guess for me, it's a bit of a hard question because, so I know in high school, I'm always like low key kind of an oblivious person that doesn't really pay attention to things or like, and I never really thought about it until this question started coming up. But like in high school, I think it was pretty nice in the sense that like we weren't like obviously uneven. I think for the most part, our classes like I didn't notice them being like a ton more guys than girls. So like I never really thought about it. But I remember like when I came to college though, I had a lot of doubt because the whole like whenever they talk about like the 50-50 thing, I'm like, did I just get in because I'm female? I think that was something that was like a bit hard to deal with at first, where I'm like, am I actually smart enough for this class? Or like am I like was I just like pity like accepted? And like that was like yeah, I think that's something that like has been there, but like I think the nice thing though was because of the fact that like there is so much support. There's a lot of people basically being like, yeah, no, there's a reason why you're chosen, and like it's not just like because you're female or anything like that. It's not like because you're female, like you're not as smart or anything, or like you're whatever people want to say. Like I think I realized from like just like time that like it's just a matter of like everyone learns the same at their own pace and all that. So like in the end, like it's okay in a way. Like I've also found that like I could find friends that like I'm comfortable with in a sense that like I think I kind of just gravitated towards females. So like since they were like the 50-50, I didn't really have a problem finding friends that were I was just like okay. I kind of just like stayed in my groups. But then like over time I also made like some guy friends and yeah. I don't really have a very like deep answer to this. Probably because of the fact I never thought about it that much. And like I'm also in general and low-key insecure person. But yeah, I think I do appreciate though like how much CMU like tries to get into our heads that like we are worthy and like everyone is here and everyone is good. So yeah.
Yeah, I as a student a couple years ago, every female I knew, with the exception of maybe one or two, said the same thing Lisa said about just not feeling confident as to why they were accepted. Um, and I think like you're accepted because you're good at what you do and you're passionate, and quotas aren't the reason. And I think it's just something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's important to recognize. Anyway, moving forward, let's talk about some advice or prepping for college. So, what has been, what was the most helpful activity that prepared you for college?
Hmm. What do I remember about high school? I don't know. I to be honest, I didn't notice a giant shift. I think the biggest shift for me actually was just being like, wow, I can go out on a school night and do something fun. Because before in high school, it would be like school nights or like even like over the weekend, like going out to do social things was like foreign, and I was like, well, but that doesn't really answer the question. So like, huh? I think for me, just like I learned, I think early on, like how to like I guess learn and study and like self-learn, and that kind of does help a bit in the sense of like learning how to like find resources like to supplement whatever you're learning and like kind of like for instance if you don't understand something finding out like figuring out like how to when to go to friends when to go to like teachers when to go to like well I guess you don't really have TAs in like high school but like that became a skill that I had kind of learned how to do slowly and yeah I don't know I feel like I might think of more things later but I feel like for me there wasn't a giant shift I was kind of just like worked a lot in high school still working a lot in college and that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any like profound answer to this either. I went to a pretty weird high school. It's a technical high school, so we had to pretty much choose a concentration upon entering the high school. And I entered in a just general STEM. There was also a culinary concentration. It was a weird school. Just yeah. But the point was like the school kind of pushed us a lot more than I think normal high schools were. And I don't know if I would have gone to the same high school looking back, but one thing it definitely taught me, and you can get this from anywhere, and this can come from just going to school, but definitely like time management, like the calendar obsession definitely arose in high school and it has only gotten stronger in college. Um, but I'm also the weeknight thing. Wow, that spoke to me. But yeah, I think that a lot of things come from self-control, and that sounds bizarre, and it's something that you kind of have to come to on your own as a human. It's very easy to have everything in front of you and just collapse because like or freeze because there's so much to choose from and so much to do simultaneously, and you just have to learn how to say no to things, what things are your priorities, and like if all your friends are going out on Thursday, they're like, hey, we should go out. And you know for a fact you have a midterm on Friday, you have to learn how to say no. And you have to surround yourself with people who will accept your no's when they come. If you have a group of friends who are like, oh man, come on, it's Thursday. What are you, come on, this midterm doesn't matter. This sounds like a bullying PSA, but you get the point. If you don't have a supportive group, you will fall into bad habits. And I think sometimes it does take falling flat on your face a few times for that to happen, to make some poor choices. I definitely know that I switched friend groups around a lot in college. I thought I had found a group that I was close with at the beginning, and I realized that they were there out of proximity. I had a lot of friends in high school that we were friends because we all had the same hard classes, so we would just complain to each other, and that sounds fine, but it was a very negative and toxic mindset. Like instead of having people supporting you and trying to lift you up, they're like, oh yeah, I know. My classes suck too. I hate everything. I'm sad. And it took falling on my face a few times, shuffling around my priorities, and like introspection, I guess, to realize what I prioritize. And that's not to sound like I have my life together. Far from it. I'm a sophomore in college, not some like wizened old man. Um, but yeah, in terms of high school, I guess it's just push yourself and time management and get ready to fall on your face a lot and then pick yourself back up and start it all over again. And that's okay because that's what life is, and college is just going to be the same thing.
Oh, that did remind me of something. So I don't think this is a normal high school thing, but my high school was kind of also weird, but like there was a class that taught me to fail. And like that was interesting in the sense of like it was kind of like college in the fact that like everyone would kind of like fail the exams. Like we would all get like 50s or 60s. And like I know especially as a high school student, it was really rough because we're all like, oh no, we have to get A's, otherwise I don't know, the world's gonna end. And like it was very interesting to just learn that like, hey, no, the world does not end if you fail a test. Actually, it's fine and you just learn from it. And like also, like if you're finding something difficult, more likely than not, you're not the only one that's finding it difficult. So those are kind of like interesting things to kind of like learn, kind of just how to deal with like, as you had mentioned, like falling flat on your face, like dealing with these moments in which you're like, wow, I didn't do as well as I wanted to, or like I like kind of like I thought I could do something but I couldn't, and like learning to like be self-compassionate towards yourself in those moments, and then learning how to like keep going despite that and like find hope regardless of whatever happens. I think that was something that like I had started to learn in high school that definitely helped, and that like I've learned a lot more in college. Yeah.
All right, a similar question. What advice do you have for high school students who are preparing to apply for college? So specifically more about the application process.
I can start us off. I have a younger sister who's currently applying to college, and I'm getting a lot of questions from her as well. It's going to come down to time management, and it's going to be brutal. Like, I don't know how to nicely tell you. It's not fun. Senior year first semester was kind of brutal for me. It's stressful because you don't really know what you're doing. You're kind of making a pretty massive life decision with high school experience, which in my opinion shouldn't be allowed, but whatever. um, I think it all comes down to really, really getting your priorities straight. And I don't know the way my high school counselors did, we had to fill out these like ridiculous surveys. And they're like, do you prefer urban or rural? Do you prefer large or small? And you were like, oh my goodness, this is my fifth one today. I really don't care. I know I'm going to this school. The thing is, you really don't know anything. I had some very bizarre beliefs about what I wanted for college. The schools that I thought I loved rejected me. And okay, so the two things I would say is time management. Really, really get your stuff together, really have like a tight schedule. And sometimes you're just gonna have to send out essays that don't feel like 100%. And don't worry, you're going to look back at them and hate them. I don't think there's enough money in the world for me to reread any of my college application essays ever again. And that's okay. And the second thing is really get your priorities straightened out. And it can be simple. You can just say, I know that I want to get very, very, very far away from home. I want to go to California if you are on the East Coast. I also highly recommend, and a lot of people don't want to admit this, especially from where I'm from, is really look at your financial state. And it's not really talked about a lot. And depending on where you're from, it's very different. And I'm not going to make any assumptions about that. But I personally recommend just do not apply to schools outside of your price range. That's what worked for me best, because I know if I got into one of the schools that was outside my price range, I would have very, very seriously considered it and probably hurt myself in the long run. Just be very aware of what kind of schools, what kind of aid each school gives. I think a lot of people like throw that in the back seat and they're like, I'm going to go to Harvard because Harvard is the best. Then you look at Harvard's price tag and you go, that'll sort itself out. It's a lot of money. So be careful with that. And also be gentle to yourself. Be very gentle to yourself. And remember that your college decisions are not who you are. I don't think anyone I know that was like, I got rejected from the school of my dreams. I do not think they're any worse off. I don't think they're any dumber, any stupider, any less capable. So be very understanding of yourself and just good luck. Honestly, that's the final piece of advice is good luck. And I think everything will work out in the long run.
Yeah, I guess you had mentioned a lot of things that I was thinking of. Like for the time management thing, I think for me what helped is I think I started looking at essays like in what's the first month of summer? June? Yeah, June. June. I think I started thinking, and like even in junior year, I'd started thinking about what I potentially want to be writing about, and I started like drafting like potential Common App things like earlier on in the summer, so that way like during the school year first semester, it wasn't really as rough. I also want to second this whole thing about priorities. Like, I think the whole like, I think so. I was kind of just like when I applied, I was just like, ah, yes, good school. Like, I guess you should apply there. But like, I definitely do think it's important to actually research it and look at like the culture there. Like, I found this especially like now that I'm learning about like, for instance, applying for jobs, how much it really matters of like a small versus big school. Like, how like I realized like my life would be really different if I was in like, so since I'm from New Jersey, like Rutgers State College, like it would be so different. And I'm like, I'm listening to like some of my friends that are like, one of my friends went to UMich and like her classes are completely differently structured and whatnot. And like the support that she has is like different and whatnot. So like all these things of like even like the rural and urban, all those things like can actually like affect it. So like be careful that you end up in an environment that you feel like you can thrive in. Like I guess like if you're someone who doesn't like thrive in really competitive environments, you'd want to make sure you find a school that is like very supportive of everyone, not just like trying to weed out people. Like I know when I was like looking at University of Washington and I was like, wait, I might not be to get in the CS program. What am I supposed to do after that then? And I was like, what is this? So like really finding environments that you thrive in is important. And I think yeah, there's something else that I remember you said that I was gonna post this up, but then I forgot. Yeah, I think the whole idea of being self gentle is really important also because of the fact that it's really easy to take college decisions as a like, wow, I didn't get into here. I thought that this was be like a safety and like does that mean I'm dumb or something? And like it doesn't mean that. So like this is a really weird story that may or may not sound like flex, I don't know, but like my sister, right? When she applied to colleges, she applied to like a lot of like safe schools and target schools, and she got rejected from every single one except for MIT and Caltech. But like Rutgers and like all the average level school, like not average level, but like all the other schools, all of them were like flat out rejections. And my sister was like, "What is this nonsense?" So like that's what I'm saying. Like it's not a level. It's not like whatever you guys have to do is not a measure of like how smart, how good, or any of that stuff. It's more just a measure of like, did you manage to catch their eye? And like, if you did, then like, bravo. If you didn't, then like, maybe you weren't the most luckiest, but like, it's okay. You can like, you will find a place that like, as long as like you end up somewhere that like you think at least that you can learn what you want to and get the experience you want, then like things will be all right. Like colleges are like they're different, but they're also kind of similar. And like even if like you don't get to like the highest school, like or even if like you might be like, oh, I couldn't get to school I want to, maybe I'll just go to like a community college and like get like 2 years almost for free and then like go up to another like transfer out. That's also an option. So like whatever happens does not mean it's the end of the world. Like because there's always like gap year options and there's like a lot of other things. So yeah. I don't know if that helps. Hopefully it does. But remember to like not take them in a personal way, even though I know it's really hard to do that, and I definitely did. But yeah.
Thank you both. All right, so maybe a bit of a fun question here. What is your favorite class that you've taken at CMU and why?
Yes, I'm going now. So I have a love-hate relationship with this class. But I suppose right now, probably because it's the most recent class that I've been taking, but I'm taking a class in animation, Introduction to the 3D Animation Pipeline. And it's really cool because a professor has worked at, I think, Pixar and Disney before, and it's like, whoa, mind blown. But also because like it's really cool to be able to like create. So like in this class we literally learn how to create our own 3D models, and like we basically in the beginning design a character, and then we're going from like start to finish of like we created models, we textured it, which means like putting on like making it look like it's furry or whatever else. And then after that we all like now on a stage of like writing the stories and like animating and all that. So like it's literally going from like whatever you want and making it come to life. And like it's just really cool. But there's also the hate side of like it's it takes a lot of time, and then you're like, I wish I had more time so I can make this better. And like you always just like, oh, this could be so much better. But like it's just still an amazing experience to be like, hey, I actually made this. Like this just came from my brain, and all of this is mine. So like yeah, I think this is definitely like my favorite class so far.
Okay, I'm technically like baby in terms of level of college. I'm literally on my third semester. I haven't taken a bunch of classes yet. I'm still in the intro level of classes. Um, so this one's going to be a bit generic and not as exciting as the animation one, which I think sounds super cool. I guess the just intro level CS class, I really went in with such a closed mind. I really went in with, I'm going to finish this. I'm just going to get it out of the way. And then I can move on with my life and just do biology and never, ever, ever think of CS ever again. So that class really opened my eyes to, yeah, just a field I had never, ever had any exposure to. And kind of tied with that, we have this freshman level required writing class. It's assigned to you. You really don't get much of a say in what topic. I got this class call about work, and we pretty much just had existential crises for like 2 hours every week. We would just talk about, why do humans choose to have jobs? Where did it come from? We talked about like the different economic approaches to jobs, and we would read things from like every end of the political spectrum. Why is like, what does job mean in these different political spheres, and why is it important in these different political spheres? And I thought that was really cool. Also, just enjoying a 2 hour existential crisis with my professor was pretty cool. So yeah, two classes that have nothing to do with my major. But yeah.
Okay, next question is, what's your favorite CS Academy exercise that we have on our site right now?
Oh no, I think it's me. So I'm gonna have to say I really like the one that's popping into my head. It's I think the little like bumper car one. I don't remember why this is popping into my head. I know it's like a really, really one of the longer exercises we have, but it just gets to the root of why I really like CS. Is you can just start with these two little cars. They don't do anything, and they don't respond to the keyboard, and they don't interact with each other. And after you like mess around with it, you have a whole game of bumper cars. And again, there's a lot of exercises that start like that, but this is the one that's like very clearly in my head. I think it's also because I spent a lot of time on it when I was going through the exercises. But yeah, I think that that's what I really like about CS, is the ability to like literally bring things to life, to give things a weird way to describe CS, let me tell you, but I think that just like there was nothing, and then you like thought things, and you wrote like random letters and like punctuation marks, and then CS was like boom, moving cars, and then they interact with each other. So yeah, I'm gonna say the bumper car one.
Yeah, so for me, it's been a while since I went through all the exercises, but so I do not have as deep of a reason to like exercises. My exercise is just like, this looks cool, or like whatever. So I think there's like two that came up to my head. Probably also because I taught them at the PD session like last summer, whenever it was. But like the up, the house that's like goes up and around. It just looks cute and it's simple and it kind of just shows the concept very simply. And then the other one is just the eyes that I should not like, but they're like, I don't know why. But like, so there's an exercise where like your mouth, if you move your mouse, the eyes just follow it, and it's low key creepy. But for some reason, I get very mesmerized by it. So yeah, I don't know why, but I really like that one. Purely just looking at it and playing with it.
Yeah, all of those are pretty good. My favorite is the inchworm exercise in Unit 2, which might be an unpopular choice, but oh well. The last question that we'll do today, or in this session, there's another session later today. The last question for this session is, what has been the most helpful activity that prepared you for working on CS Academy?
I'm first, aren't I? Huh. I think it's hard in the sense of like prepared me for CS Academy. I feel like there's a lot of things that help in the sense of like I've always been interested in educational teaching through engagement in the first place. So like that's kind of like was like one of my dream things to work on in high school. So like I spent a lot of time just thinking about like learning in interesting ways and over analyzing like just how people learn and think, which probably is not the best thing to do sometimes. Because I'll really just look at it and be like, hey, like I wonder if like people would think about this in this line, or like would they like learn in this way or this other way. I don't know, I just found those things interesting. So like since I'm a content creator, I think that's been it ended up helping me in the sense of like I could look at an exercise and be like, hey, I should think about how like the other people like might learn, and then like see what I was doing. Oh, I guess okay. The other thing I think helped me a lot is the fact that I struggled a lot in CS, which might sound odd, but like because of the fact that I struggled in understanding a lot of these basic concepts, like I remember when I first learned about and or, I was so confused, and like because of that, like I think spending so much time like having beforehand struggled with it gave me a more solid understanding that allowed me to think of like different ways to like explain things, or different like metaphors or whatever they're called, that like kind of showcase how something works. And I think that also has kind of helped a lot in the sense of like this is about teaching and also about being simple and all that. And like so that like it can reach anyone, because like not everyone understands things the same way. And not everyone like if you explain something like this, or like you go through one exercise, you might not be able to get it. So like yeah, in a way like the struggle of it of like learning is kind of what I think made it stick in a sense, and like allowed me to like think of many different ways to like look at a concept and a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna second what Lisa said. I think I'm a type of there's I think there's like very broadly two type of people in terms of learning. You either get it right away, you watch the lecture, you go to class, you're like, yep, cool, if and got it. Conditionals done. I don't need to ever read the notes ever again. And then there's me. I really, really need to take the time with all the new material I get. And CS for me was so new last year. I had to spend like extra hours on top of my peers to try to understand like really, really basic material. And I think that really helped me because I came in with so little CS experience that I can very easily go, oh, how would I have liked to see this explained to me? How would I have liked my teacher to approach this problem with me? Um, I also think that I had a lot of teaching experience with like really young children, which is very analogous to high schoolers. Like I don't think I'm sorry, I taught like 5-year-olds math, and that is that is the same spectrum as high schoolers trying to learn CS. I'm kidding partially, but I think that I worked with a lot of really, really stubborn kids. I worked with a lot of really enthusiastic kids. And overall, I really love teaching. Like, I don't know where that's going to take me in life. I don't know if that's going to be a career choice for me, but I really, really like teaching. And the ability to support teachers in their journeys to help their students, and just being on the supporting end and also running the PDs are just so rewarding to me. So I think I would say that me having a very slow like uptake of information for CS, and also working a lot with like really different age categories and really different materials, and like just getting a lot of sense of fulfillment from that. So yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Lisa and Emily. Thank you everyone who listened in to our Q&A. I'm going to pull up our schedule for the rest of the week here. Need to figure out which of these tabs actually has the schedule. And I believe it is this one. Okay, I see the problem. Sorry, technical difficulties. And I think it should come up in just a second. Yeah, so we have Monday through Fridays is 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., and then 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. We'll have different students on each time. And yeah, if you have questions during those sessions, you can ask them. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day, and goodbye.